become the NXT Tag Team Champions. No one can ever take that away from us.
We lose again. Who are we? What was this for?
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
I'm Landon.
And we are your resident top guys getting ready on this show, and it's going to be NXT TakeOver Toronto, The Revival, those top guys, versus DIY, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, 2 out of 3 falls for the NXT Tag Team Championships.
This is going to be a fun one to talk about. This is a match that I was heavily invested in one at the time, mainly because I'm pretty sure all three of us, we went to a NXT live show that happened in New Orleans about a month and a half before this show, and I'm still convinced that's the greatest tag team match I've ever seen in my entire life. And you're nodding at me, which means you agree with me.
Oh, I 1,000% agree with you. I'll never forget that live show. It's funny because we were all there even before we all really knew each other.
Right.
And I left that show with DIY and The Revival at the top of my list for, people who I considered some of the best wrestlers in the world.
I was convinced that the two greatest tag teams in the history of the business fight me.
Yeah. So after seeing that match at that show and then this match just a couple of months later, I mean, I was hooked.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's a match that is, I mean, already it doesn't even. How is it possible? It's been over 3 years, or about 3 years since this match happened.
That shocked me, actually.
But I remember watching this live, on the network and thinking that it doesn't get any better. That's kind of the thought that I had.
Yeah. Shakespeare.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's our first tag team match to land on the list. Thanks to everyone who voted. We've been getting a lot of requests for tag teams. Like, hey, where are all the tag team matches? There's so many amazing, groundbreaking tag team matches. So thanks to everyone for voting in. And I think it's very interesting that the first tag team match that makes it in is also the most recent. So what does that say about tag team wrestling today?
It's an art form.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, tag team wrestling, we can talk. There's a whole nother conversation about how tag teams are being used and all that fun stuff, and we can get into that if we really wanted to. But through all of that, even when it's not seen as somehow the best time for tag team wrestling, it seems like it's in a lull. We've still had come through this time period with some of the greatest tag team matches on the planet, and it's been awesome. And even since then, even since 2016, we've had a handful of other matches that really could be considered to be on this list, which is you just have to love. I think that there are a few things that are more fun to watch than tag team wrestling when it's done correctly.
Oh, I agree 100%. Tag team wrestling is one of the things that got me into wrestling in the beginning. Back in 99, 2000, my favorite wrestlers were the tag teams because they were more fun to watch, I thought, than even at that time, the business was pretty fast, but it's slow by today's standards. But I just found them more exciting to watch. Also, I had an older brother who loved to wrestle.
Yeah, there you go. So I remember I fell in love with tag team wrestling in the early video game days, right? So when everyone remembers going and SmackDown, here comes the pain, SmackDown, shut your mouth.
What a game!
When you go in and you create a wrestler, and I spent more time creating a wrestler on the tag team moves than any other part because those are the coolest moves in the game.
Yeah.
And to see them happen in real life, when we talk about this match, and we'll get into it, these are some of my favorite tag team finishers ever. I just love them so much, and so I absolutely get it. It's you can do so many more things when there's two of you, right? And so there's just an ability there for that wow factor, and that's something that both of these tag teams, they get us for sure.
Yeah, there are things you get in a tag team environment that you cannot get in a singles environment. What about, a hot tag? What's better than a hot tag?
Few things. Vince McMahon's birthday was this week. Is that better than a hot tag? So I guess, Paul, happy birthday, Paul.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you want to give us a few comments on how your birthday went?
74. You made it. Congratulations.
Happy 74th. God damn it.
That's actually a good time to like Landon said, thank you guys for sending in your recommendations. It's because of recommendations like the ones you've been sending in that have gotten us to do great matches like this 2 out of 3 falls contest between DIY and the Revival. We had a few more suggestions this week, so I just want to send a quick shout out. On Twitter, we had 3 of them, at Matt Sloan 86, at Glorious AU, and at OG Timbo Thank you so much, all 3 of you guys. Really, really good suggestions, and they've definitely been added to our list. And so get ready, because your match could be the very next one that we cover. So thank you for that. Also, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, definitely rate us or review us. Thank you to Marty RLZ, apologies, for that review that he left for us on Apple Podcasts. That means the world to us. So thank you so much. Wherever you're listening to us at, thank you for that. Feel free to share us, rate us, however you'd like to do that. We appreciate any and all feedback because we want to make this show as good as it can possibly be for you guys to listen to. Also, this is our first match outside of the top 10, right? This is episode 11. So at the end of the night, there will be one match that is not inside the top 10, which we're excited to figure out what that might be.
You dreading all of the comments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We had a long discussion about this beforehand.
It's going to be really, really interesting, right? But that's the point. It's going to get more and more interesting as we go along, which is a great time for you to jump in on our ranker page, because as we get more and more matches, it's going to be harder and harder to rank for us and for you guys as well. So we'd love to see where these matches rank. So feel free to reach us on Ranker at www.ranker.com/lastmatchstanding. If you have any feedback or any match suggestions that you'd like to give us, you can do that on Twitter at lastmatchcast. You can email us at lastmatchstanding@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at lastmatchcast as well. But without further ado, we might as well get into November 19th, 2016, from the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, NXT TakeOver Toronto.
I just want to get back into the 2016 way of feeling things.
Yeah, very, very good stuff. It's the 12th ever TakeOver event, right? And so at this point, NXT TakeOver is an institution.
Oh, yeah.
It is one, it has built a reputation, and it is known for being some of the best shows that WWE will ever put on all year long.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It knows at this point how good it is.
This is the era where the TakeOver show on the Saturday before whatever the big pay-per-view was a better show. And, Jesus, like, even like 3 years later, like, anytime I watch TakeOver, I'm like, all right, guys, good luck with that. Good luck beating that.
Yeah, and they go, and it's remained to be true now, right? I mean, here we are 3 years later, and it feels like TakeOver sets the bar higher and higher after every single show. And I mean, obviously now we're in the week after the announcement that NXT is going to go onto USA Network once SmackDown moves to Fox.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where that takes the future of NXT. But you know, somewhere around this 2016 area is when the momentum is really had by NXT and its TakeOver series, and this is arguably the match of the year from 2016.
Oh, I agree.
This is actually set up by the same 2 teams fighting for the same tag titles at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2, which was the TakeOver event before this, right?
Oh, yeah. That TakeOver Brooklyn 2 happened right before they went on their tour when we would have seen them.
Right.
And then this happened Brooklyn is in August. This is in November. So it would have been about, 3 months?
Yeah, I think it's around 3 months.
3 months.
So before we got there, do you guys remember Tommaso Ciampa's debut in WWE?
I was hoping you'd bring this up.
Oh, how could I not? So before Tommaso had really broken into the indie scene and really done a lot of the stuff that we know him for today, he appeared on the July 14th, 2005 episode of SmackDown as Thomas Whitney. Whitney is actually Tommaso's his real last name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Thomas Whitney Esquire, one of Muhammad Hassan's lawyers,
Oh, boy.
and confronted The Undertaker.
Destined for greatness.
It was kind of amazing. He'd read a statement and had this little spiel, and I mean, he just looked 1,000, could not look more different from what we know. Tommaso.
He's completely unrecognizable. He's clean shaven. He's got full head of hair, and it's like slicked back, and he's wearing these glasses. completely unrecognizable. When
And-
you told me that was him, like, no, that can't be him.
Well, and not too much longer after that, he was on Velocity. He wrestled Jamie Noble, and he appeared on Heat, tag teaming with Kofi Kingston.
Really?
Yeah, and like he was doing things to kind of get his feet wet in the business in WWE, and I don't know, they just didn't quite see anything in him at that time. But you could say the same thing for Johnny Gargano in 2007. Johnny Gargano made an appearance on an episode of SmackDown.
Yep.
And he was in a squash match against MVP. And MVP was new there at the time. He was having his first United States Championship opportunity against Chris Benoit. And in the lead up to that match, he was like, I am going to prove that I am a worthy United States champion. And so for that, I'm going to defend the honor of this country and wrestle these different champions of other countries.
It's all coming back to me now. I
And
totally forgot
he
about
introduced the champion of Liechtenstein, Cedric von Hausen.
That is an amazing name.
Johnny Gargano comes out in this ridiculous getup from 17th century Europe and wrestles a pitiful match.
I forgot about that.
Can you imagine if he brought that back now?
Oh, please.
It's time.
I'm begging.
Bring it back.
Von Liechtenstein.
Von Liechtenstein for NXT champ.
Hire Cedric.
That's where it started.
All right, that's it. We're doing this. We're gonna make this happen, guys.
Come on, Gargano.
Hey,
we know you're
listen,
listening.
We manifested the King of the Ring coming back. This is only our chance
did.
to do it again.
But seriously, I'm impressed with both, and I think Gargano had an incredible career on the Indies. Got known as Johnny Wrestling from it. One of the careers that I haven't heard that many people talk about is Tommaso Ciampa's, and to me, this is just personally, he reminds me of some of the all-time classic great wrestlers, and it has a lot to do with the fact that he was trained by the same person who trained Triple H, and that's Killer
He's one of
Kowalski.
cool. That, if you ever like to see any stuff, Triple H isn't as active on social media as some other people are, but anytime he's there, he's either in a picture with Ciampa or he's saying why he thinks Ciampa's the next big guy. Like, it's clear that he sees something in him, and it's good because he needs some people on his side because he's a smaller guy. Even though we've gotten away from the land of the giants, he's still considered a small guy by people like Vince. But that's why it's really important to have Triple H going, no, this guy is a big fucking deal. Pay attention to him. Let him show you how good he is.
They are definitely cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And they look like an upper and lowercase letter of each other. If you put them side by side, it's like father and son, even though they're the same age.
What a wonderful comparison.
So you're saying it starts with quadruple H,
Exactly.
then goes down to Triple H, double H is somewhere, and then single H being Tommaso Ciampa. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That's more like 1.5 H.
Who's Double H? Adam Cole?
Double H. Just love that so much. So, we talk about Gargano and Ciampa, and obviously this is 2016. It's before they have what ends up being one of the
Oh my
greatest
God.
feuds
Double H.
in recent
I'm sorry
Yes.
to cut you off.
No.
I know who Double H is. Husky Harris.
Oh, God.
You heard it here first.
I knew it was going to take me a sec,
but
but
you got it.
I got it. Okay, please continue.
Yeah. So we are about a year and a half or so removed from the start of one of the greatest feuds in recent memory between Gargano and Ciampa. But that doesn't end up being one of these great feuds if this night doesn't happen.
No, I don't think so.
At TakeOver Toronto, right? And I do want to give the Revival credit as well. We talk about Gargano and Ciampa and how great they are, but how good of a tag team are the Revival?
Oh, like, it's a travesty that they're not being utilized the same way on the main roster as they were in NXT because they are that good.
Yeah.
And I think people just look at them. They look playing like that's why they're so good. They don't look like your prototypical pro. They do from like the 70s, but not from today. But they go out and they like meticulously put out these great matches, these very old school matches that are a little bit slower, but they This one is no particular. Actually, this one's a lot quicker than most of their matches. But we watched the TakeOver Brooklyn match, which is a very, very slow build, and then it hits this point. The last 5 minutes are at this frantic pace, and then it's over. Like, God damn it! I want to see that again, and that's how they get you.
Yeah. I think that we're sort of in this Young Bucks era of tag team wrestling, right, where they kind of set the standard for tag team wrestling, and teams like them, and the Revival are very different. But I would watch the Revival every day of the week.
Yeah, they are the antithesis to the Young Bucks.
Yeah, but I think that they are they're the definition of tag team psychology. They are the definition
absolutely.
of heel tag team wrestling. It doesn't get better than that. And so they are the absolute perfect partners for such an emotional team like DIY.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that both of these teams do very well, particularly I'll say the Revival, is they hit hard.
Yes.
They pull no punches. Every single piece of this match is meticulously thought out, and they're constantly communicating with each other. If you go back and watch any Revival match, they are talking to each other about what the next move is going to be. He's like, "Hey, Dash, get up on top." Like, they're constantly talking, and whenever they hit, whether it's a suplex, a chop, a left hand, they hit hard.
Oh, Dash Wilder does some European uppercuts in this match.
Oh, man.
You could hear him a mile away.
Oh, God. I saw him. I'm like, gee, I want to see him have a match with Cesaro now. Can you imagine that? Just like a stiff fest?
I do think, and this is maybe an unpopular opinion, I think Scott Dawson is the star of the team. I think some of the things that he does are next level, and I would definitely love to see a singles match between Dawson and Cesaro.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
We'll get there. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah. Oh, God. But gears are turning now.
So, I mentioned this earlier, but the Revival are actually two-time champs at this point because they regained the tag titles from American Alpha, speaking of teams that I miss. American Alpha at a TakeOver event just a couple TakeOvers before Toronto. So DIY has a chance to take the tag titles from the Revival at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. And it's a match which, by the way, could very well have been the one that we were covering today. It's so good. But the finish of that match, like Paul was talking about, is so fast, but it's also a little bit controversial, which leads us to
yes, it's very, very controversial, which is why they got this match.
Mm-hmm.
So the ending of the Brooklyn match is Johnny Gargano has Dash beats him. The referee hits the 3 count. They shot it so well that you see Scott Dawson on the camera, but you don't see him do this. He actually, right before the 3 count hits, he puts Dash's foot on the bottom rope. The referee hits 3, he sees the foot, and he calls it off, says, no, that's not it. This match is going to continue. And before you can even comprehend that, the match just ends. Dash hits a chop block on Johnny and then puts him in an inverted figure 4, and he taps out like, son of a bitch. Like, motherfucker, no, he won. He won, God damn it, I want to see him win.
And what I remember the most from that night is that and they mentioned this in the video package, is that was supposed to be DIY's moment. Everyone thought that DIY was taking the titles then. They just knew it. They knew that was DIY's night, and it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. I was one of those people, I'm like, motherfucker, no. Dusty finish right now. I want this to happen. I was waiting for somebody to walk out and be like, there was some interference here. We're going to and it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It broke my heart.
Speaking of a Dusty finish, pretty much immediately after this, it goes into the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic tournament on NXT.
Exactly.
And this was in September 2015, I think. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa are announced as part of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. And they do successfully advance through the first round of the tournament. Actually, this was their debut. So this was earlier.
Mm-hmm.
They show up for, I guess this was the first Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic.
Yeah, because this is like right after Dusty passed away.
And they beat Tyler Breeze and Bull Dempsey, and they
Hold your comments to yourself.
go on to lose to Baron Corbin and Rhino.
Cool, that's a
Continue
team.
to hold your comments to yourself.
That's a team.
So that was how they arrived in NXT. It's like these two indie guys. let's put them together. We'll see what happens. But as the lead up to this match, they had that awesome Cruiserweight Classic tournament match against each other.
Man,
Let me just quickly shout out the Cruiserweight Classic. That was just, first of all, it was the first thing that we had seen like that on the network. Like, it was a huge deal. And the number of incredible matches that we got out of it.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
What I loved about it is they brought in a bunch of outside guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they brought in like Kota Ibushi, and they brought in like Tajiri. And I'm like, I think somebody once said, like, oh yeah, Kota Ibushi's going to come in just to do a couple of spot shows. Oh yeah. Okay, sure. What am I watching again? Like,
Kota Ibushi was the star of that tournament.
Yeah, but he was not under contract. He just came in to do. I forgot how many matches. He just came in for that. That's a big fucking deal.
Yeah, you could tell they were really going to try and get him just based on the way they were selling him. And I mean, every match in that tournament is like a 5-star quality. Could be on this list match. They were excellent.
But when you think about the two matches that come out of the Cruiserweight Classic as the ones that are most remembered, one of them is Kota and Cedric Alexander, you know, the infamous hire Cedric match. And then the other one was Ciampa and Gargano.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is the start of a long multi-year feud between the two of them. You can see the seeds planted here.
Oh, and the thing is that they leave you wanting more.
Oh, absolutely.
In that moment, you absolutely want it. But it's so much fun watching them together, right? And
it really is.
Yeah, and so
I think that's what they put it off until 2018.
Yeah.
And so it's after this that we get the Brooklyn match, and Ciampa and Gargano are then set to face the Revival in the following year's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic.
In round 2, yeah.
Right. And the Revival back out. They're like, oh, no, we've got Dash has a leg injury. There's no way we can wrestle. We can't. So they move on to the next round against who
the Authors of Pain.
Authors of Pain. Authors of Pain.
AOP.
And of course, they're doing well. They're gonna beat AOP. They're finally gonna win the Dusty Tag Team Classic. They're gonna be the best thing ever. And from under the ring, out come the Revival. No leg injury, totally phony. And AOP ends up getting the win based on interference.
I love using the Dusty Classic to tell a story. Right. Oh man.
Speaking of that, what happened to the Authors of Pain?
Who?
Exactly. Thank you.
Akam and Razor, I think, do really good work together. They're more interesting than your average bulky tag team. One of them is hurt right now. That's why we haven't seen them in a while.
I was just thinking about that this morning. I'm like, what happened to them?
Yeah, one of them is hurt.
That sucks.
So that is actually, that interference leads us to DIY getting their last shot at the NXT Tag Team Championships versus the Revival here at NXT TakeOver Toronto. And in the video package leading up to this match, first of all, I just want to shout out the song that they use. It's called Hated by Beartooth, and it is so good. It is so good for this video package, so shout out to that. But they do a really cool moment where they're both, like, they're interviewing them both kind of in this sort of staged area. And, we played one of the clips for you at the top of the show with Gargano saying, what happens if we lose? But that was absolutely the vibe. As much as everyone thought that NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2 was going to be DIY's big moment, Toronto felt like it was going to be their last moment, perhaps.
Yeah. This one of the selling points of this match is if they lose, they're done.
Where are they going to go from here? Exactly. But that takes us to November 19th, 2016, inside the Air Canada Center, which how much do we love when WWE goes to Canada? It's so much fun.
They just were there
Bizarro
a couple
land.
weeks ago.
Yeah, it's just completely different, and it's so much fun. But I just want to tell you that as we center in on this match, just to give you, the environment, keep in mind that on commentary are Tom Phillips and Corey Graves. So good. And the referee, Danilo Amphibio, which you would recognize as Sasha Banks' friend, perhaps, on the old Instagram. But
Would we?
I think you should, maybe, if you keep up, perhaps, on Instagram. He's sort of like he's a famous NXT official. Anyway, not important. The point is...
Well, he's no bro ref.
Leave it to Spencer to recognize the officials.
and bring up a female superstar to be the friend there.
There you go.
It's very on brand for me. But
That is very hard.
but I just want to mention before we get to the match, the start of this show is Bobby Roode versus Shawn Spears. I'm so sorry, versus the Perfect 10 Ty Dillinger. And Bobby Roode's entrance in the first match of the night. This is how the show starts.
Oh, yes.
He's got the
this.
big choir, and his song is the most over thing in the business at this point.
He just sends from the rafter.
One might
No,
call it glorious.
Glorious, right? So he walks out. There's a choir on his left, on his right, and they're very much like straight faced. Like it's a very powerful moment. They're singing the song, and Bobby Roode's walking to the ring, and I'm so into the moment. But then I see a sign in the crowd that says, "I ditched my girlfriend to see Bobby Roode." And I just was grateful for that. It was worth mentioning.
I would do. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. me and that guy on the same wavelength right now.
But you know what makes it okay? She would do the same thing.
She would do this thing. Exactly. You're absolutely right. So we get the video package. You know, it's sort of midway through the show that we get this 2 out of 3 falls contest. And we get the video package and then the entrances, right? So the first to enter are DIY, and the crowd is already, like, you can tell from the jump that they are going to be all over this match. And the entrances are they're regular entrances, like they're just getting people ready to go. But a couple things I wanted to point out. One of them is I love the little details in things, and I've always loved the graphic that plays when there's a title match happening.
I do too.
And this one for the NXT Tag Team titles is particularly good. It's very, very quick, like blink and you miss it, but it's just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
It puts the title together, and it's great. That's, listen, it's not super important, but I like it.
No, it does. It adds a little bit of flair to the match to make it feel that much more important. It really does.
Yeah, I completely agree. But Tom Phillips says something right before they ring the bell. He says, 2 out of 3 falls, how does that come into play? He's asking Corey Graves. And Corey Graves says, it doesn't. You know why? Because Dash and Dawson are machines. And that's what they're selling.
He's right. One thing I did love about this, before the show started, this is allegedly, because Corey Graves says this happened. He says before the show happened, Bret Hart walked up to Dash and Dawson and said they're like a modern age heart foundation.
Yeah, he does mention that.
Which is great because they're wearing pink and black.
Yeah, he does mention
and
that.
So I'm like, wait, did this really happen? I like that didn't happen. And I looked it up. I don't even think Bret Hart was in the building.
Yeah, I mean, that was the obvious nod, right?
Yeah.
There's no way it wasn't.
When they're in Toronto, they have to do it. But I just love how he says that. It's a very Bobby Heenan of him to do something like that.
Corey Graves do something Bobby Heenan-esque.
Oh, yeah.
Not
Poppycock.
super surprising.
Yeah, unheard of, right?
So, guys, believe it or not, the bell rings, and we have a quick start to this contest. Surprise,
Very
surprise.
quick start. It was hard to keep everything down because this opening 5 minutes is so quick, but it's just Gargano and Dawson just start. They are so fast, and it's just chain grappling reversals. And I'm like, good Lord, like they're going to blow themselves up. They don't. They just keep going.
It feels like a very like back and forth, like off balance, like super quick start. Someone's trying to get the advantage. The first time you see anyone get a clear advantage is when Ciampa and Gargano hit drop kicks in unison.
Oh, yes, beautiful.
On the Revival, and they are so good.
I really love the innovative offense we get anytime we see Johnny Gargano in the ring. I mean, honestly, all 4 of them do some really interesting stuff. I know Scott Dawson in this match does some really rare submission holds that I wish we would see more of, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as the match goes on.
Right.
But you see things from Johnny that are just like they come out of nowhere, like the leaping neck breaker, right? How often do you see somebody who's like 5'10" jump like 6 feet in the air for essentially a reverse RKO?
You don't.
It was gorgeous.
It was. One thing that I love, though, is any time DIY gets an upper hand, Revival just starts cheating. And it's usually subtle. Like, the only person in the ring that has, like, a lot of hair is Johnny, so they keep pulling his hair. And I'm like, but he does it, like, he grabs, like, the side of the hair behind the ear while he's got him in a lockup so the referee can't see it. And I'm like, God, this is fucking genius. And just simple stuff. Like, he does, like, a snapmare, like, but he grabs Johnny's ear when he does it. Like little things like that. It's so subtle.
Yeah, and that's what the Revival does best is their little subtleties. There's a point in this match where there's a subtle tag, right? So at this point, I think this is after the first fall, Ciampa removes his elbow pad, and he's gesturing to the crowd or something with the elbow pad.
Yeah,
he's doing this...
Throws it out. He's
Well,
gonna do
something
it.
like that. And so he does this little spin where he's like looking around the crowd, and as he does this little 360 spin and his back is turned... They tag. But Dash doesn't get in the ring after the tag. He just stays where he is and lets Dawson lay there after the tag. And so when Ciampa turns around, it's as if nothing had happened. And so he goes to work on Dawson and gets blindsided.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's such a tiny little detail that you just don't see in other tag team matches.
I think the Revival, when they go out there and perform, watching them is like watching a love letter to classic tag team wrestling.
No, I agree.
Like that's how I feel.
They even kind of say it. They keep talking about how we don't do flips, we just do fists. We hold the values of a bygone era. And like when you hear them say that, you believe them because they do stuff like this. And just they do the quick tags. Like they'll come in
and
Scott will do
in and
he'll
out.
do he'll do a snapmare and kick him in the back, tag in Dash. Dash will come in, drop him in the back, and then do like a I can't think of the move right now, but he'll just do very simple things. Tag out. I'm like,
it's textbook.
They're in and out, and like, because the first 5 minutes is just Johnny, and they just keep working over Johnny, and it's just like they finally get a tag for Tommaso, and then I just thinking, got two bald guys with beards in the ring right now. I like this, and then they just start beating the shit out of each other.
Anybody seen Paul lately? Paul, have you've been looking in the mirror?
I do look a little bit like Scott Dawson right now. I'm thinking about shaving my chin.
Are you Double H?
Maybe.
You're taking on all sorts of different personas in this podcast, and it's blowing my mind, and I'm loving all of them. But you're right. It is sort of Revival controlled in the ongoing the beginning of this contest. But we're not far into it when we do get that first fall. And so what happens is Gargano goes for a slingshot spear, which is one of his trademark moves that people love. Right? They love that slingshot spear. But he's actually caught and turned into the Shatter Machine, which is one of my favorite names for a finish ever.
And then just Corey Graves blows his load. Shatter Machine.
It's absolutely brutal. And so what would you call that? If you had to actually call it a technical move, what is it, a flapjack codebreaker?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's basically what it is. He does the flapjack and pulls him down to the codebreaker. And then a move like the codebreaker, in reality, the higher you're falling from, the more impact it's going to have. And you get picked up like 7 feet in the air and then
From a
brought
flapjack,
down,
yeah.
Yeah. That would be very devastating.
It is a beautiful move.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But just like that, and we're 5 minutes and 8 seconds in when the Revival hit the Shatter Machine and get that first pinfall. But what I want to take note here is who is the guy that gets pinned?
Johnny.
Who was the guy that tapped out at Brooklyn 2?
Johnny.
Subtle, but important, because part of the build to this match is Gargano saying that he let DIY down, that it was their moment, and he was the one that made it not happen for them, right? And so he is the one that feels like he's in debt to Ciampa, like he owes him because he was the one that let them down. And here he is in the first fall of this match taking the pin.
And that sets up a number of things. Not only does that play into the, obvious DIY breakup and the huge rivalry, that year-long rivalry that lasted between the two of DIY, but you also have things like this that continue to happen to Johnny that break him down, that drive him to attacking Aleister Black in that NXT rivalry. That was an excellent match as well.
But I was going to say, it's not surprising because Corey Graves reminds us every 5 minutes about how Johnny's going to let down Ciampa again.
He does.
Matter of fact, after he gets pinned, he says he might as well just lay there and let this match end with a clean sweep because they know they can't beat the Revival.
Well, yeah, and then so actually when the second fall gets going, it's still Gargano kind of getting beat down. And Tom Phillips says one thing about Gargano and Ciampa is there's no quit in these two, and that's when Corey Graves responds with, maybe they should find some quit because this is a clinic from Dash and Dawson right now, and that's how I feel like the Revival are. They are a tag team wrestling clinic.
Yeah, they are. Once again, to quote Corey Graves, they're a very well-oiled machine.
Well, and
they're a machine, not human beings, like they were saying at the time.
I mean, Corey Graves does an excellent job
he
at
does.
selling the Revival.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that stands out to me from Corey Graves, he says, you hear people talk about Elvis and seeing the Beatles live. We are witnessing equal greatness right here with the Revival. I mean, it's like, how more can you sell?
Yeah, he says they're transcendent. Like,
Yeah.
that's what he says. And
And you believe
how
him.
can you compare him to Elvis and the Beatles.
God.
What are you talking about? But you absolutely buy into how big of a deal these two guys are, which when you watch them wrestle, it makes sense.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I buy into it because how often do you see in a tag team match someone snap on the gory special?
Oh, man.
It's not very often, but I loved it.
And I knew as soon as I saw it when I was rewatching this match, I was like, Landon is going to love that gory special. Like, I just know.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was so well done.
And you know what I really love about it is that he's standing close to his own corner, so he can reach out to Dash, right? So he can reach out to him in case
They
he
do
needs
such a good job of cutting off the other corner in this. They keep when it Johnny. Well, they mainly do this with Johnny. With Ciampa, they don't do as much. But when Johnny's in that ring, they keep him on their side at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is not a chance of tagging in. There's one point where he's trying to. They do like want to do a spine buster. Oh, he almost put the tag. He flips him around and he nearly tags. Like at one point, it looks like Johnny's with the tag in Dash Wilder. I'm like, that doesn't work that way, but that's just basically what way it happens. They cut him off so well, and it's so frustrating because you just want that hot tag and you keep getting denied.
And the crowd is getting hotter and hotter every time Gargano gets anywhere close.
And we get I have to say this, a beautiful slingshot suplex. Scott Dawson.
Boy, do I love a slingshot suplex.
Oh, and
You don't see it often,
it
but
happens
it's great.
right after Corey Graves compares him to Tully Blanchard. And that was Tully Blanchard's finish was the slingshot suplex. So I'm like, wait, did he hear that? Because it happens. He goes, "Oh man, they're like the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, or they're like the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard." And slingshot suplex, like
Right there.
Right there.
how? How did he know they were going to do that? He makes that comparison.
So to your point about the Revival keeping Gargano from the corner, there's a really, really cool quick moment that happens where Gargano does look like he's actually close to making the tag on Ciampa, but Dash has made his way around and pulls Tommaso Ciampa off the apron, but not super well, right? So Ciampa fights it off a little bit to where he sort of kicks Dash off. But when he kicks Dash off, Dash gets to the other side of the ring, onto his side of the ring, and he starts distracting the referee.
Yes.
This is when Gargano tags Ciampa while the referee is distracted.
Man. The crowd, we get that hot tag, and the crowd loses it. But before he can do anything, he's like, "No, get out of the ring right now, get out!" And
Right, the ref turns around
and they
because
start
he didn't see it.
booing.
And I love this so much, while Ciampa is being pushed out of the ring by the referee, Gargano is now in the Revival's corner, just getting hammered from both of them. I mean,
God!
I mean, just how much more could you hate these guys?
And then we just like a drop toe hold into a running elbow drop. I'm like, God damn it, he's already dead. Stop it.
Well, right when Gargano's getting this beat down in the corner, as if things aren't bad enough that Ciampa couldn't get hit, like his tag didn't count, he didn't come in. He actually gets chased by Dawson, and gets into the ring post, so that when Dawson gets back in the ring, he's set up to hit a heart attack on Johnny Gargano.
Yes, that's when they start making Heart Foundation references, and he does the heart attack. I'm convinced that somebody is telling Corey Graves, "You need to make this reference right now because they're about to do the spot." There's no way. That's 3 times now they've made a comparison to a famous tag team, and they've done a famous spot from that tag team. This not a coincidence.
I don't know.
It could be, because that's kind of what the Revival does.
Exactly
right?
my point. I feel like that is what the Revival is going for. And so even if they're not being told they're about to do this spot, Corey Graves knows that that's what the Revival is all about.
Mm-hmm. And he says, speaking of Corey Graves, he says during this moment, right after the heart attack is hit, he says, the Revival literally have Gargano and Ciampa running in circles.
Yeah.
Because that's what just happened. Ciampa's running around the ring chasing after the Revival, and it's just resulting in the Revival getting a stronger and stronger hold on this match, and it's looking more and more like it's going to be a clean sweep.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, honestly, the first time I watched, I thought we were going to get a clean sweep. Because my problem with 2 out of 3 falls matches, and I even kind of said this to both of you. I hate them as much as I love them because 9 times out of 10, this is how the match goes. The heels win the first fall, bayface win the second fall, and then the third fall can go either way. But a lot of times what will happen in a 2 out of 3 falls match, the first fall will be like, oh man, this is great. And then whoever you don't want to win wins. And like, okay, well now we know what's going to happen in the second fall. And the second fall is usually quick, boring. This is the opposite of that. The first fall was the shortest. The second fall was the long wrestling match we got. And honestly, I thought we were going to get a clean sweep. But it's always so predictable because, oh, okay, well, they won the first one, so they have to win, right? But we're at an era now where they'll do 2 out of 3 falls matches and just do clean sweeps just to troll the fans. And I love that. But
I really did like the clean sweep that we got between Andrade and Ray and the way that they set up that story. This was just a couple of weeks ago on Raw.
Yeah.
And that whole storyline. And so you can do really interesting things from 2 out of 3 falls matches. Honestly, when I think back about this match, it may be because, I think about the TakeOver match, which was just a singles match. I don't remember it so much as a 2 out of 3 falls match. I don't know that it truly adds or removes anything for me for this match.
Well, it's interesting. During the intro to this match, they say that now the Revival and DIY are competing in one of NXT's signature matches, which is interesting because I don't remember it being that way. But at this point, it was because some of the bigger moments, you think Sami Zayn and Cesaro, they had a 2 out of 3 falls match. That's an instant classic on NXT. And so 2 out of 3 falls was something rare, but it was something that NXT and in their takeovers or not, they did almost exclusively next to WWE.
yes, for a while they would do them, but they were smart. They would book the clean sweeps every now and then, so you wouldn't you don't know what's going to happen next. And the first time I watched this match, like I said, I was convinced we were going to get a clean sweep here, and I thought we were going to get. I mean, we get the breakup angle like 6 months later. I thought we were going to get that on this night because they were just victimizing Johnny so much. I'm like, how much can one man take?
Right. And it seems like just when Gargano is sort of at the end of his rope, they go up for a back suplex on the top rope, and Gargano reverses it into a crossbody.
And we're like, oh, well, so I'm fighting him, and then like, oh, well, he gets a 2 count, but he immediately gets the hot tag.
Yeah, he tags in Ciampa, and that pop, oh man, that crowd.
But I
was
love
there.
how he immediately does a missile drop kick from the top rope.
Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful.
And then just starts doing running knees, like, oh my God, he's firing up. Here we go, baby. Let's do this.
We get a leaping leg lariat.
Yeah, how about that?
It was gorgeous.
From behind, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
You don't almost never see that. Loved it. I was actually, during this time, so it's 2016, right? So it's not too far removed. I called it a reverse Rough Rider.
There you go.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? A little Zack Ryder reference.
Yeah, but
Didn't know you needed it.
And then we get triple Germans. I'm like, here we go. And then another running knee to Dawson. Like, this is it. We're going to win.
Kick out.
But then, oh, God. And then the moment that made me, the first time I saw it, whenever they set up for the spike pile driver.
Yes, the Revival.
Man.
They set
and
up
my
for it.
heart just stopped. Like, oh, no.
Please don't.
But we get a top rope crossbody onto Dawson while he's still holding Johnny.
Yeah, Ciampa jumps from the top rope to break that up, right? Because he pushes Dash off the top turnbuckle, climbs the top turnbuckle, and hits Dawson with the crossbody.
But he's got Johnny almost the entire way up. I'm like, how's it? This is going to crash and burn. And it doesn't. He lands it, and that gets the second. I'm sorry. Then we get my favorite tag team finisher I've seen in a long time, the running knee super kick by the DIY.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting in the middle.
Every time I see it, it scares me because if they mess up, they're going to break his neck.
But it looks great, and they actually hit it. This is something that's kind of interesting because they get this time in the ring together with the two of them without Ciampa having to get out of the ring because Dash is still in the ring. And so the ref is trying to get Dash out of the ring. So that's when they have the time to hit that tag team finisher. Ciampa gets out of the ring. Gargano gets the pin. And there you are tied at 1 apiece. This is about the 13 minutes and 35-second mark. So to your point, we did get 8+ minutes in this fall.
Yeah. And that was the longest of the 3 falls.
Which is interesting, right? So
but that's usually the way around. Like I said before, it's usually the shortest part because especially if you don't have a clean sweep booked, like
you kind of know where it's going.
The fans know where it's going to go, so you want to get to the next fall as quick as possible. I loved how they didn't do that. They intentionally made it like longer and more drama to really build up. So when they do get that second fall, you're like, fuck yeah. All right, we have a chance. Is it wrong that I halfway expected them to lose immediately on the third fall? The first time I saw this. But it doesn't. But this is like, for the first fall, we didn't have like that moment to recover. But for this one, they do. And then all 4 men in the ring together. And I kind of like that moment where it's like, all right, hang on. They're all there. Like, let's do this. And then the referee, like, all right, let's do it. And we start brawling. I'm like, fuck, yes, let's go. And then eventually he does it. No, get out. And then he just, God damn it.
This is where your Ciampa elbow pad spot comes in.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is where it is.
That's the moment. That is the moment.
And it's so good.
Like,
I'm so glad you brought it up, 'cause
and Wilder
it's
are just
brilliant.
they're trading forearms and elbows. And then he just stuns him and he pulls off that elbow pad. And he's like, where am I going to throw it? And then Dash tags in Scott. I'm like, motherfucker.
Ciampa actually gets to go for his armbar on Scott Dawson, and you think that, oh, this is the moment. But Dawson does a really great reversal of that armbar into a roll-up, into a pin, and you think that could be the moment that they lose and slip up. But it's a 2. But the crowd is this is when they're starting to get nervous, because now it is the third fall, and now we are moments away from something
the
happening.
crowd is incredibly invested in this match at this point.
Pretty much like the moment that second fall happens, they stay at like an 8.
And I feel
and
like
it does not go down.
I feel like the men in this match could feel that. Because it
for
really
sure.
seemed like they can really feel when the crowd is hot and when they need to slow things down and that sort of thing. And you could tell the pacing of this match in the third fall completely changed.
Because they know, like, we got them. Because like they're going berserk over like a running elbow strike.
And speaking of pacing, there's a moment, and I believe it happens in this third fall, where Dawson puts on the inverted figure 4 into Gargano. And I thought it was interesting. Earlier in the match, Dawson applies the gory special to Gargano. And then here he is again using another very rare, very seldom used finisher from way back when, the inverted figure 4, again on Gargano.
Yeah. Who at this point has had he's been chop blocked and they've been working on his leg. At this point, like, Johnny is like doing everything on one leg.
Well, it's important to note, just before we get there, the reason why the leg comes back into play is because Dash went outside the ring and grabbed the tag team titles, grabbed one of the belts.
Oh my, yes, he's going for the super kick and he ends up kicking the belt.
Exactly, Gargano kicks the belt, and so the focus immediately goes back to the knee, goes back to that leg of Gargano, and that's when Dash hits one of the nastiest chop blocks you'll ever see in your whole life. And it's great because now all of a sudden it's a callback to Brooklyn, and you're thinking it's gonna happen again. It's gonna happen again, and the boos that the Revival
Yes.
get. Oh my
man.
gosh!
One of my favorite moments. It actually is leading up to that point. Scott Dawson goes for a backslide on Johnny, but they're in the corner, and he actually kicks off of Dash Wilder's chest and rolls over. I don't know. I think it's the inside cradle. I'm like, I don't know why I love that so much, but I do. It's just so simple. But it's like, oh fuck yeah, he gets out of that hold.
There's another moment that happens that I absolutely love. It's something you never see. Scott Dawson rolls, I believe it was Gargano, up and pulls the tights.
Yes.
And the ref stops the count. Usually, when someone is pulling the tights, the ref is completely oblivious. They count to 3, and that's the end of the match. And you're like, "Oh, what a despicable act that was!"
No, he stops and he's like, "Nah, you get out right now." And he forces Dash to come in.
I loved that
because like I'm thinking he's like, "Oh, he's not gonna DQ him. It's a title match." Like, and then we get another. I love this so much. It's right after that happens. Dash and Dawson are going for DIY's finish. The running knee and the super kick. Johnny rolls at the last second.
And Dash hits Dawson.
Oh, he kicks
with the super kick.
He kicks his head off.
Yeah.
And he eats shit and rolls out of the ring immediately.
I loved it because it was them trying to make fun of Johnny Gargano saying, oh yeah, your super kicks ain't shit. Look, we're gonna do this right here, and then he hits one. And
he gets his head kicked
It did
off,
something,
and then immediately DIY hits the Shatter Machine on Dash Wilder. I'm like, fuck yes, here we go.
And you think that's it? You think that's the 3 count? You think after DIY hits the Shatter Machine, it's over? But Dawson breaks up the pin,
like Freddy Krueger at the end of Nightmare on Elm Street, just out of nowhere, just wow, breaks it up.
And this isn't, first of all, nice reference, but this isn't one of those "this is awesome" chants. We get a "holy shit" chant from the crowd
from a 2 count,
right? Which you don't get "holy shit" a lot of the times outside of some sort of like weapon, like table spot or something like that. But you get it here after they hit the Revival's finisher, and it's a 2
holy
count.
shit chance on a near fall.
Yeah, and so that's when Dawson goes for the roll up without having the pin. He grabs the tights right. The ref notices, which again is a brilliant moment. I love it a lot. But then Dash throws Ciampa into the post just like he did at Brooklyn 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think again, no way, right? No way it's going to happen again. But that's the way it looks until Gargano super kicks Dawson. And then the big chop block comes in on the left leg, and we have the inverted figure 4 try to put on Gargano again, but Gargano is able to actually reverse it into a Gargano escape.
Yes.
And that's when Tommaso Ciampa comes in. He puts the armbar on Dawson, and we have dueling submissions in the middle of the ring.
Spencer.
Yes.
Paul, I have a confession to make.
Oh boy.
I just now, in this moment, for the first time in my life, realized that it's called the Gargano escape.
Yeah.
Because the N-O at the end of Gargano.
Right. Oh.
This is the moment where I learned this information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our producer just said today years old. Like, yes, I agree with you on that one.
Wow.
You heard it here first, folks.
Landon,
I'm
proud
here.
of you.
I made it. I'm here
Proud
now.
of you, Gargano escape.
Yep, I
Oh,
never
gosh.
made the connection. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
At this point, we got the Gargano escape locked in. We got the armbar locked in. And then I love this so much. Scott is looking at Dash. Don't tap out. Don't tap out. He grabs his hand. They're holding hands. Don't tap out. Don't tap out. And they both tap out together. And I'm like, yeah.
Them holding hands
And shouting.
hanging on to those belts.
And shouting, don't tap out to each other.
It was beautiful.
I christened this the Thelma and Louise ending.
Yes.
Because they're holding hands and they go out in their own terms. And they
It is.
both
It's the
They
simultaneously
go out
Thelma
on
and
their
Louise spot.
own terms.
they go out together.
I did not expect Thelma and Louise.
They hold hands. And they both give up. That's how Thelma and Louise ended. They hold hands and they drove off a cliff.
They didn't give up. There were like spiders on the mat right there. They were just doing some work.
All right, Corey Graves.
I am so grateful for Thelma and Louise being the ending of this match. Like, that just made my whole life, Paul. Oh
But
my
much
God.
to what Landon just said, the second they tap out, the very first words out of Corey Graves are, "This is a travesty. This can't happen."
This is illegal. Both of these men are in the ring right now.
Yeah, he starts making every excuse there is, and then Tom feels like, "Would you shut up?"
Corey Graves does eventually hand it to DIY once they have the titles. Once they're celebrating, he does say, as much as I don't like it, Gargano and Ciampa were the better team tonight.
Which is a big deal for him to do that because he's Mr. like aggressively will talk about how good the bad guys are and how evil the baby faces are.
Guys, how much fun was this match?
It was incredible.
Oh man, like talking about it was almost as much fun as watching it. Like I know you guys are watching me get more and more animated the closer we got to the end of this match. And I'm just like, fuck yes, I love this.
So what was so interesting to me about this match is the placement on the card.
Mm-hmm.
This is the third match.
Yep.
There's plenty more pay-per-view to go. This is like the halfway point.
And I think they burned the crowd out with this.
They really, really did.
Because like, don't get me wrong.
Toronto gave them 100% in this match.
And don't get me wrong, there are some great matches that follow it, but I wouldn't even consider this to be like I guess this is I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about because this is the night where we get Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura, which as we all recall had the fuck PG chant.
Yeah, I mean, this is also the in-ring return of Mickie James.
Yes. Like, they had some great matches after that, but the crowd just, I think they were burnt out. Because they picked back up for that main event mainly because they got pissed off the match stopped because of blood. But just, they were so tired after this match, and you can tell.
Well, this is when, and this is still how TakeOver does it, is they co-main event, and the main events are most of the time it's the women's championship match and the men's championship match, and so there wasn't really any other spot for it on the card. I don't think. I mean, unless you could have opened for it. You could have opened the show, I guess.
If this opened the show, then we wouldn't be talking about it or the show as we are now.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Because you needed the crowd to get perked up by Bobby and Sean Spears. Excuse me, Bobby and Tyler. I'm sorry, you did it, and I had to do it too.
Yeah.
I had to do it. I'm sorry, but you needed something like that to pick everybody up. You needed the spectacle of Bobby's amazing entrance with the choir. You needed that to get them invested.
Absolutely. And this is Bobby Roode's one of his first matches in NXT.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, is it his TakeOver debut match? I feel like it is. I don't really know. Feel free to correct me.
It is because like there's a trend where Ty Dillinger was everybody's first match.
Yeah. So this was Bobby Roode's first TakeOver match, so it made sense to start it that way, and Glorious was such a big deal, which makes me feel like maybe it wasn't his first TakeOver match because everyone knew the words to Glorious. But feel free to correct me if you wish.
Bobby, he appeared in the crowd at Brooklyn. He was there like, oh, we just signed Bobby Roode. Holy shit. Because I remember whenever we saw him in New Orleans, it's the first time I'd heard his music. And I was like, that's his theme? That's really cool. This fits him very, very well. And then he had a amazing match with Nakamura. I mean, too bad we can't review that, but it wasn't on TV. So
Yeah, you're right. But that leads us to favorite moments. What were your favorite moments in this match, guys?
Well, normally this is what I would consider like the cheap way out, but the entire fucking match.
That is the cheap way out.
Now, honestly, though, just the tag psychology by the Revival, just the way they cut the ring off, the way they just found very creative ways to either cheat or to just like they weren't getting cheap heat, they were getting real heel heat just by being bad guys, and you just don't see that anymore. And I love it.
I think my favorite part of the match was the innovative offense from Johnny Gargano. At one point, there was a insane tornado DDT that involved all four of the people in the match.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite moment.
We didn't talk about it, but something I remembered he did. At one point, he does a suplex and a neck breaker to both the members of the Revival, and it is amazing. It just, I agree with you. His very innovative offense is amazing. The Revival's just the way they handle this match is incredible. Just Ciampa not getting lost in the shuffle, just the way he carries himself when he is in the ring. I do love it. I like all three falls. I love. Because all three of them, the first one just came out of nowhere. Like that's how quickly this match could end. The second one was like we finally fucking did it. We fought back. And the third one is just this. Even though they lost, like just the way they went out. Like I said, they're holding hands, shouting each other, "Don't give up." That's like the most valiant way I've seen a heel get beaten. And even though they tap out, you're not like, haha, those little sissies tapped out. You're like, no, they fucking fought to the very, very end. And they knew there was no way out, and they conceded and admitted that, okay, you guys are better than us. We're coming back for those belts, but tonight you were the better team. And just the story they told before the match, during the match, and after the match, that's fucking wrestling.
I couldn't have said it better. I will say that my favorite moment, I think, is when DIY hits Shatter Machine and it's a 2 count.
Oh yeah,
because the place loses its fucking mind.
Yeah,
they just cease to exist.
Holy
after that
shit
point.
chant off of a 2 count.
It's just really, really fun, and I could watch these four guys go at it always. Like, I'm just totally here for it. I'll take a rematch any day of the week because that's how good these guys are.
Well, we never actually got that rematch. What we did get was a triple threat tag team between the Revival, DIY, and the Authors of Pain.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the Authors of Pain moment to shine. And it really broke my heart that we never got the one-on-one rematch between these two. It could still happen. It's just it's been 3 years. I don't think it's going to happen.
If it does, it won't be in NXT. That's for sure.
True.
So
it'll be on the main roster, and Vince McMahon's hands. My hands will be all over it.
So that leads us into ranking it. So we have 10 matches so far on our list of the 100 greatest of all time, and gladly we have our first tag team match. Let me ask you before we get to the ranking, how important is tag team wrestling to a list like this?
It's incredibly important because I feel like oftentimes when you look at like, top 10 best matches of like the decade or best matches from here, oftentimes the tag matches get like the short end of the stick. They're like, the honorable mention. I'm like, motherfucker, there's some tag team matches that are way better than some of these singles matches that get a lot of love. I'm not trying to talk down or demean any singles matches. It's just I don't like how tag team wrestling often gets overlooked, or just people don't consider how good tag team wrestling can be.
One of the greatest things about professional wrestling, which obviously we all love, is that it provides some variation to what you're watching. I mean, how many sports do you get to watch where it's not just a 1 versus 1, 1 versus 1, 1 versus 1.
You don't see a lot of tag team boxing matches.
That sounds amazing, but no.
Exactly. It changes things up. It allows you to kind of look at something from a different perspective. There are things you do in tag team matches that you can't do in other matches. And there have been some really amazing people, such as the Hardy Boys, such as the Dudley Boys, and we're seeing it now with the Lucha Brothers, who are doing things in tag team wrestling that has never been done before and that you can only do in that type of environment.
Yeah.
And so it's extremely important to recognize the importance of tag team wrestling, and definitely tag team matches belong on this list.
And these two teams make tag team wrestling feel important.
They do. But I just got an amazing idea that I think you're both going to love. I got 4 words for you. Tornado tag team boxing.
Oh my God, I'm in. I'm in. Sign me up.
I think I can just see the injury list already.
It's going to be really high.
But I mean, why not?
An ambulance in every corner.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Okay,
Oof.
so we do have to rank it. So since we now have a full top 10, so the first question that we have to ask ourselves when we go to rank this match, is it in the top 10?
So that's an interesting question you put there, because we did discuss this before we talked about the match, and I feel like after talking about it at length as we just have, I know you've accused us before of being creatures of the moment, and
What?
I 100% agree with you on this one, because my initial reaction was like, oh god damn it, top 3. I'm like,
Paul, your initial reaction is always top 3.
Okay, it
That's
is,
always your
except for
initial
like the Royal Rumble was top 3.
This is why there are 3 of us.
Yes. As much as I love this match, as much as I want everybody to go out of their way to watch it, as much as I want to gush about how much I loved it, top 10, I'm not sure.
So just top 10 with what we have. Like, does it
With
beat
what we
anything
have,
on our list currently? Is
I
the real
think
question.
it does. As much as I love Kurt and Shane, I would put it above that.
Okay, so you're saying yes to inside the top 10.
Yes,
and you're going a step further and saying you'd have it at number 9.
I would have it at number 9. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'd actually take it one step above, I think.
Really?
Because if I have to look at the list as it appears at the moment. And right now, number 9 is Cactus Jack and Triple H, and number 10 is Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon. Both of those can be considered hardcore matches.
Oh, yes,
right?
they are.
That's the style that we're in. And so you get that flavor of wrestling. And above that is the 1992 Royal Rumble, which, similar to this match in a way, has some really classic wrestling in it. It's a kind of a spot fest.
It really is.
And you get some of that with this match, too.
That's true.
I think for me, the Royal Rumble in 1992 was more entertaining and really hooked me than this, which, at first when we were reviewing the 92 Royal Rumble, it didn't hook me as much. But if I have to think of, if I'm putting this match right up against it and thinking what's the last match standing, I'm going to watch the 92 Royal Rumble probably because of the significance, because of the tear in my eye.
Yes.
And because of just the sheer talent you have in that ring, in that match, it's going to have to go above Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa versus the Revival for me. So I would put it at number 9.
You
Number
put
9?
it, yeah.
Okay.
So you put it at 9, and I don't know how numbers work. So Paul, you would actually have it 10. So you would have it 10 below Cactus Jack and Triple H, but above Kurt and Shane. Right?
Actually, after listening to him talk, I'm
He's
hard pressed
convinced you.
I'm hard pressed to agree with him on that one. But I want to hear your opinion before I put my final.
Yes.
Sample.
So I really love this match a lot. I love tag team wrestling a lot when it's done really, really well. I think to Landon's point, you can do some innovative things that you can't do one-on-one. And it does make you want to see some sort of Armageddon UFC match.
My gosh,
6-man. But I do think it belongs in the top 10. So that means I would be bumping Kurt and Shane outside of the top 10. So apologies to anyone that's really rooting for that one to stick around forever. As far as where it goes on the list, I don't think I can put it above Eddie and Ray.
Oh, no.
So I do think that it's going to fall underneath that one. But I am sort of at a crossroads between, do I put it above or below the Rumble? That's kind of where I'm at as well. I love the Rumble. It's got 15 Hall of Famers in it. Like, it's hard not to. It's an iconic with a tear in my eye, the whole thing. I think at the end of the day, this tag team match between DIY and the Revival is going to stand the test of time. People will remember it for a really, really long time, but I think they will remember the Rumble 92 longer. And so I'm going to put it in the same place you did, Landon. I'll put it right there at number 9 as well.
I think we're unanimous on that one.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got this match going in at number 9. Number 10 after that is Cactus Jack and Triple H. Number 11 is Kurt Angle and Shane McMahon from King of the Ring.
Which, as we all know, contains one of my favorite wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, absolutely no knock on that match whatsoever.
Yeah.
We
No,
obviously love it to put
not,
it on this list.
We're not knocking any of the matches on the list. It was just one of those things of, as much as I love Kurt and Shane, I didn't jump out of my chair and go, fuck yes, when that match ended. I was like, oh, thank God it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, they got me off my feet, but it was more like a off my feet because, oh, dear God, please go to the hospital.
It's a very different type of match.
Yeah, it's a very, very different. This one, like, just say what you will about the match itself, but DIY and Revival just it hooks me every time because it gets me.
Look, this is extremely subjective. So,
Yeah.
Hey, guys, if you are listening to this right now and you think you got that so fucking wrong,
Like,
I
it's
need
number 1. It's number 3.
I need to tell you, please let us know. Lastmatchstanding@gmail.com. We got a really great note from Dylan. Dylan writes, "Hey, Landon, Spencer, and Paul. I don't know which one of you is which yet. I'm Landon.
I'm Paul.
I'm Spencer.
I found your podcast because of the shout out from Attitude Era podcast. Hey, thank you, Attitude Era. So I checked out your podcast on my favorite match of all time, Shawn Michaels versus Triple H from
Ayo.
SummerSlam 2002. Loved the episode and subscribed right away. Thank you so much.
I did
Dylan.
not think anyone else existed outside of us. That was their favorite match of all time thus far.
It does remain at number 1 at the moment.
Yeah. And once again, that is not Bike Shorts Triple H, but it is Gene Shawn Michaels.
And so Dylan decided to listen to the episodes of the matches that he'd already seen, watched the matches, focused on the other episodes, and found that he didn't think the 92 Rumble was all that special. Because that was his first time watching
fair.
it.
Yeah.
If you're not, extremely familiar, so Dylan writes that, he started watching wrestling in 2007.
Okay.
So if you're jumping into it from that place, it's difficult to see the value in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, yeah, that's
92. I
understandable.
totally get
like,
that.
Pretty much everybody in that match was retired when he started.
And so Dylan goes on to write, he also thought the same thing about the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart match from WrestleMania 10, as well as Bret's match against Roddy Piper from WrestleMania 8 against British Bulldog at SummerSlam 92, and the Steve Austin match at WrestleMania 13. Dylan found that Bret Hart is just really, really boring, and he's not the type of fan that loves people like the Young Bucks, who do thousands of moves in a match and sell none of them. And so, and that's totally a stance, and I hear that from a lot of folks nowadays.
Yeah.
And I totally get it, and so he goes on to write that he just thought that we would be interested in the opinion of a Bret Hart hater. And hey, look,
I'm very interested in it.
absolutely understand that point of view, and I'm really interested to see. Please go over to our ranker, and if you're not a huge Bret Hart fan, you can totally vote down those Bret Hart matches, and we'll see where the ranker lies at the end, and we'll see how our lists differ.
Dylan, big shout out. Great email. Thank you so much for that. We love that so much because you have to think when you think about the listeners of the show or the people that, us, even the three of us, we all jumped into wrestling at different times. And some of us view matches before 1996 through different eyes, and sometimes those matches can't be as captivating when you look at them from 2019 eyes, right? Like, it can be difficult, and so your list will obviously look very different from ours, but that is the point of the ranker.
I
right?
agree. But I will say the criticism of Bret Hart, I understand people who don't like Bret Hart. I really think there's definitely like a more of a modern eye against Bret Hart. I mean, I have a very modern eye for wrestling, but I just have I had a lot of fun watching Bret's matches. I really think that's just because I've always said that Bret Hart is kind of like he's like the wrestler's wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Like you really have to. I don't say you have to be like ever have been involved in the business like I was to appreciate Bret. It's just one of those. I think once you get involved in it, you really appreciate guys like Bret, because Bret's a guy that, much like Kurt Angle, I really think Kurt, like, it took him a long time for him to become the Kurt Angle we know. For the first couple of matches he had, the crowds were constantly booing and saying boring. So I really just think with Bret is you kind of have to not go to the beginning of his career, because you're talking about early 80s and up to the late 90s. You just kind of have to watch Bret's matches with not like an entertainment angle, but more from like just break down what he's doing, why he's doing it. He's a very
psychological wrestler.
Very psychological. He's the thinking man's wrestler. You really have to. He's very, very calculated.
You have to appreciate him,
and
I think.
I find if you really do appreciate Bret and you really look into it deeper into his work, you'll really start to go, okay, I understand why people like him, because he's a guy that could go out there and he could have a great match with anybody. And that's why wrestlers and wrestling fans love him so much. But I understand what you mean. Like, if you put a microphone in his hand, like, I don't care. I don't want to hear him talk unless he's like 97 Bret screaming at people. That's what I want to see him with a microphone.
Right. And I totally understand the love. I totally understand the love for the Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, even though you're not a huge Bret Hart, a Steve Austin fan, even though that's number 1 and number 2 on our list. They're very different. So Triple H versus Shawn Michaels is a very story-driven match.
Yes.
Whereas Bret Hart, Steve Austin is a very technical match.
Yes.
And so those are two very different reasons why we love those. So totally get the difference.
Well, let's be very, very clear. Our list, like us making this last match standing, this list of the 100 greatest matches of all time, is not going to be your Dave Meltzer PWI or PWO, 5-star, we're going to rate it the same way he does, sort of what we say is sort of the word of God in terms of wrestling. Like, the three of us are going to make this list, and we're going to be really passionate about it, and we're going to rate them how we think they should be ranked. But we're very well aware if you do any other three people, they're going to give you a different list.
Oh, absolutely.
3 other people from them are going to give you a very different list. So we love that you don't necessarily agree with us. That's why when this thing ends down the road, our last match standing won't be solely what we think it's supposed to be. It's going to be split between what we think and what you guys think. So when somebody like Dylan sends us an email like that, we love it. Like, we absolutely love that stuff. We want to hear where you agree or where you disagree, because we know that how you watch wrestling is different from how I watch wrestling or how Landon or how Paul watches wrestling. And so we know that you may agree with me or Landon or Paul on some of these things, and you might really love that. But there's going to be moments where you really don't. And that's okay. That is absolutely okay. That's part of the fun.
And thanks for the continuing to listen. Thanks for all the love. We really appreciated your email. And anyone else who wants to kind of chime in and share their thoughts on the podcast, let us know. lastmatchstanding@gmail.com.
Absolutely, or on Twitter @lastmatchcast. Totally find us there, because we definitely have some more ways that we're going to get you guys involved in this podcast. So reaching out to us is the best way to get involved, and so we are super grateful for that. We've said Ranker now 100 times, but I'm going to throw that out there one more time. Ranker.com/lastmatchstanding in order to rank these 11 matches that we have so far. Yep. And then also you can find us on Facebook if you're there @lastmatchcast as well. So it was a pleasure doing our first tag team match, guys.
Oh, I agree.
Again, happy birthday, Paul. Vince, appreciate it. Happiest of birthdays to you, sir. We are going to actually be at Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live in the Baton Rouge, New Orleans area this week. So if you see us there, we're actually going to be sporting some really cool stuff. So feel free to say hello if you see us there. If you just want to reach out to us, super great as well. So really some exciting things coming up, and we can't wait to do another match next week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So keep an eye for Twitter, and maybe there's a Twitter poll. Maybe there's another bonus episode where we'll have some fun to decide who's gonna pick the next match. But definitely stay tuned. What's next is going to be really fun.
Absolutely. And until then, as always, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul. God damn it.
And I'm Landon.
And this is Last Match Standing.